Hi guys, I'm Dan, and today we're going to talk about advanced camera techniques and the so-called fly cam that I invented, that I already shown. This time I'm just going to pack everything together, talk about everything I do with my cameras. Some of it is a little bit basic, some of it is a little bit more advanced, but I hope, yeah, there's something there for everybody. And yeah, the things we're going to go over in terms of camera techniques is, first of all, just the basic camera setup. I have a very specific way I set up my cameras and my spawn areas to work with. Then the camera animation, what you need to know in terms of that, what to look out for. Then the so-called box vibe that we use for Soda Island, the hidden cuts, kind of how to hide your cut without having to use the box vibe. And how to actually set up a match cut. Then we go to the fly cam for the second half, and I want to concentrate first of all on the actual setup. Again, how to actually set up the fly cam. It's super easy, and then kind of how to manipulate the camera and how to actually fly. And for some of you who haven't seen last year, like the last Cyro talk, you're going to all know what the fly cam is going to be. The transform stacking, how to stack actual transform groups and use multiple transforms for that camera. Then the actual racing setup. Yes, you can race in Quill. And in the very end, if you stick around until the end, there's going to be a special surprise that I set up for you guys. All right, let's jump in. Let's hide this and let's start with the grid. How to set up my camera. So the way I do this, the way you should always do this, yeah, let's just go there, is putting your camera animation on a group. The camera animation is obviously going to be on transform keys, and you want to have a group above your camera. So I just create a group. Let's call this cam group. And then I create a camera. And it doesn't matter where you create it, because you immediately go and reset the transform. Just so you have a kind of fresh camera that is properly aligned to the horizon here and is in the center of the scene. And then you have two options in the camera settings, which you want to choose, like eye level.
You might want to use the term spawn area, right?
Yes. I'm, that's kind of my thing. I come from 3D and 2D animation, and I've worked with cameras, and I always just call it camera. But yes.
Yeah, unless you cover cameras as well, because then it might be a little bit confusing if you cover both, and then.
Yeah, right. That's true. Yeah. So let's call this a spawn area. There we go. So you have two options in the spawn area here. It's eye level and floor level. What that means is if you have it on floor level, that the camera is always when you're standing, you're always standing on the ground, and also if you're sitting, the ground is always on your actual like real life ground level, and your height where your like your viewer's head is can vary that way. But if you set it to eye level, then the viewer is always going to be at the actual place of the camera, at the spawn area. And for Soda Island, we used the eye level camera just because we need very specific positions for the camera for the spawn area. I'm sorry, Gora.
It's all right. It's all right, man. I confused you. Sorry about that.
No worries. So yeah, we have very specific positions, and the way the shots are set up, we just use eye level to have more control over where the viewer is located. So yeah, let's stick with eye level for now. And then the next thing I do is I take this camera that I have here, put the pivot just pretty much into the center of the spawn area, and then I basically just sit down straight up. I'm currently sitting, or you could do this standing up, the way you would usually sit while kind of watching an experience. And I I have this preview spawn area thing activated. I hit play. Whoops, obviously this has to be the initial spawn area. I hit play, and then I am in the like location of the camera here. So I realize this being my ground level here, the grid, I want this to be on my actual ground. So let me roughly put this up here, and if I now hit play again, it's below me. It's roughly on my ground level. If I were to stand, it might be roughly there. So what this means is that I could now go in and create a new layer, and again hitting play, I now stay in this position, the position I am in as a viewer, as I would look through this spawn area. And with this new layer, I then basically put my controller on my shoulder and just do a couple of brush strokes where my arms and legs are located, roughly. There we go. I'm actually doing this while in my seat right now, and my head. There we go. So you can imagine this is me right now. And this pretty much is on my legs, roughly like that. Looks like I'm a little bit hunched down, but yeah. So this is a very rough representation of the viewer's scale. And that way I can then know at which scale the viewer is going to be in the scene. For example, if I have a character that's this big, I might want to have the viewer at the exact same scale. You could also, what I usually do, I duplicate this one and just make basically a standing version of that guy. That would be a little bit below that ground then, because we are on the eye level here. And that way I roughly know what the sitting down, oops, I just both, the sitting down and standing upright viewers, what they're going to look like. Yeah, that's going to give me a rough representation of the scale of the viewer. Then, additionally to that, I make a new layer and create a simple cross with the straight line tool. And again, I want to place this in the center of the scene here, just to be sure that it's the perfect center. So yeah, this matches. And then I put it on the on the height of the spawn area. Put it way back, right there, for example. And then again, looking through the spawn area here, I now have a cross that is perfectly centered in my view, so that I know where the base gaze of the viewer will be. When the viewer looks straight up, straight forward, that's where I mostly want to have my main character animation and stuff I want to concentrate on in the scene. What I then sometimes do additionally to this, again on a new layer, doesn't have to be on a new layer, just how I do it. I create a simple circle. Let's do a quick one here. And kind of try to center it around that cross. And then looking through it, I try to match this circle with the actual size of what my rift is seeing. The what's that called? the
field of view.
The field of view. Yeah. So that's again helping me to know if I'm kind of treating this as sort of a camera in this way. So I know what the view is going to look like as if looking through a camera in their base position. And what you then can do, taking this cross and just making something like this. Let's do it like that. And that way I created a simple horizon around the entire view, and then I know where the horizon line is. If my camera is tilted a little bit, I can easily kind of set it up again in my scene to recenter the camera. And
so the distance to the head-up display, is that like kind of arbitrary, or did you find like a sweet spot that is always good to like a
it depends.
good rule of thumb?
It depends.
Yeah.
I mean, usually
depends on the scene, right?
Yeah. If it's a very close scene, you might want to just take this and just put it closer. And you can just take all of this, and because it's centered anyway, well, it isn't.
So basically, dependent on the scene, this thing is constantly moving and changing in scale, right?
I usually don't really change it. This is a good enough distance that you always see that cross in your scene. That should be fine. And sometimes I just use this cross. You don't need this full setup, but I think this is the most ideal thing you can set up. What you could also do, which might help additionally to the horizon line, is just setting up a quick grid yourself, so that you always have that grid in your scene. Let me kill that one. To always just have some sort of an understanding where the ground is in terms of in relation to the viewer. Could have done this easier, but that's that. And if you have a ground in your scene and you don't know if you're straight enough on that ground, then just you have a grid that you can always just turn on and off. So yeah, this is kind of a very advanced camera setup. It's very easy to do, but you might not need all of this. But that's just how I do it. All right, this is our very kind of a messy setup. Let's just take all of this like that. And yeah, now we have a camera set up. So let's go to the next point, which is animating that camera. So let's just pretend we have a character in the scene on a ground and character. A very simple character. Okay, and that character is moving from left to right through the shot. So what do you do when you have a moving when you have to set up a moving camera? Let's give this guy a quick animation here. Whoops. Okay. There we go. Perfect. Oh no, not perfect. I didn't record. Whoops. All right. I actually always have this record button on. That's why I didn't realize it right now. This actually helps me to create to set up my keyframes, and it actually prevents a little thing that happens in Quill that I'm gonna come to in a bit. So let's do this again. La 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 la. What a beautiful day. Oop, and there we go. We stop. All right. That's the animation that we have in the scene, and we now want to set up the camera in a way that we properly follow him. What you might want to think, what to do here, is take this spawn area, and let's actually create a thing. Okay, and take this, place it here, roughly so that we just see he's pretty much in the center. And then we go to that last point there and put him there. And then, well, to make it smooth, we just make it an S-curve, this easy in, easy out. And, well, you could do that. This guy's, yeah, it's actually pretty perfect. But maybe in this case it works properly, but usually animating the camera in this way with this curve means the speed of the camera is pretty much going to be like this. You'd never have a constant speed of the camera. You're always kind of changing speed, and that sometimes, especially in a longer shot like that, if you have a very long tracking shot, that can be very irritating and kind of nausea inducing for the viewer. So what you might want to do is actually set something up that you ease into an animation, and then you actually have a linear transformation, and then you ease out again. It's a slight difference, but especially in very long shots, you need a linear movement. So let's try to set this up. And the way I do this is, first I just set the keyframe here to linear, so that we just move linear through the scene. And then at a couple frames behind here, I just make a new keyframe and make this one an ease in. And that way we ease into the movement. And now you can see it's going slow and then very fast and then slow again because we're linear. So yeah, it's not really easy to see right now, but it's not really working. So we just have to move this keyframe a little bit and kind of trial and error. Let's go out of this one so we see it better. There you go. This is pretty much it. So you just move this keyframe around, and then this camera is properly easing into that movement and basically hits, what happens here is it hits the velocity, it does something like that, and you have to move it around so that this, for example, just matches the linear curve at some point. So right here is our keyframe now. So yeah, let's do the same again for the end here. Let's do that, move it around a little and ease out in this case. So let's see what happened here. It's too quick. And there we go. See, it's moving linearly, and then whoop, it's perfectly easing in. It's taking the velocity, the speed of the linear movement, and properly fading back into a standstill. All right. That's how you want to animate a tracking shot like this. And actually, rotation you want to avoid. That's the only tip I want to give you on that. A rotation meaning rotation like that. If this character were to move around us, you don't want to just animate the camera with him. You have to find ways to let the viewer just follow the character, and then let the character maybe go back into the center, and the viewer just looks to his right and then back to his left. But you don't want to rotate the camera in a scene. That's very nausea-inducing. And yes, we obviously do this in the quantum race in our episode, but it's very fast movements anyways. And you're moving in a car, for example, you have things around you, and that way it's kind of easier for the viewer to to not puke. But yeah, slow movements like this with rotation is pretty bad, so don't do that. One little thing I want to point out, which is also where I have this already always toggled on. If you don't have this, if you have it like that, and you already have keyframes attached here, set up, and let's see, let me just create another keyframe real quick up here, and another one just up here, whatever. So let's move this like that. So you see, I have a couple of keyframes here, and if I not have this toggled on, and I'm on a keyframe, and I change something in the transformation, then I just change this keyframe, obviously. Everything else stays the same. But when I'm not exactly on a keyframe, if I'm just somewhere here and I don't have this toggled on, and I move, then the entire group is completely shifted. Everything's messed up. So yeah, this also happens with just all groups. It's not just for camera. This happens to groups if you move something, if you not have this toggled on, and that's why, just to make it easier for me to animate, I just have this on. And if I do this, in that case, I would just create a new keyframe. Everything else still stays intact, and I would say, oh, whoops, what I did here, I delete this keyframe, and everything's perfect there.
It's pretty dangerous, but when you know how it works, it could be pretty useful to have that change all over, the whole layer.
Yeah.
If sometimes you need to do this kind of
Yeah.
overall changes, but yeah, it's pretty dangerous if you don't know what the record button is.
Yeah, it's like automated animation, like setting automated keyframes in like Maya and stuff.
Auto key and Maya is the same.
yeah, and you want to be careful with this, but I think this thing with not having this toggled on and just moving the camera once, thinking you're on a keyframe, you're changing the keyframe, and then like 10 minutes after you figure it out and your entire film is shifted. You have to just go to a previous save or something. So once again, something to be careful. But yeah, let's move on. The next thing I want to talk about is the box wipe. So we are in the second episode of Soda Island, and let's actually see if I have this still in here. The setup that I use, the cross, might be in there, but
no. I think the group is hidden above, right?
It is, yeah. There's my cross. There is the center of the viewer's view. I'm not sure this one. And right now, I have this scene where I'm looking to my lower right here, and we are about to cut into the next shot. And for this, I used the box wipe, and also used a technique to kind of properly guide the viewer's eye. So we are in this area. What I usually do here, I go into the camera view and to the camera group, create a new layer, just make a simple guide here for me to know where the viewer is looking at in this shot. And then in the next shot, this is the area where they were looking at. And then I want something to be there in the next shot to then guide the viewer back into the shot. So I'm looking to my right now. Now I look up to that character. And now I'm back in the center. And you can see that cross there. That's the center of my frame. All right, so a couple of stages to guide the viewer first to the right and then back into the center. And that's a little bit of a directing thing, but in terms of the box wipe in this case, let's delete this one. It's just a simple box that wipes over the viewer, fully goes around the viewer, and then that is in the transformation group of the camera. That way, wipes through here and goes along into the next shot. So let's actually set this up from scratch. Let's delete this one, make a simple box here. Boom, boom, boom. And sometimes I just add a couple of things to it that kind of make sense for the scene. In this case, we have this character there who looks a little bit gooey, so let's put a little bit of gooey stuff there, just some texture to connect with that. And then I have this box. I wanted to start, let's see, there's the cut, so let's start it, let's see, well, let's just take this as it was. Start the endpoint here, go to the end here, where I want this to end, there we go. And now I need to know where the viewer is, so let me turn this thing on. This is the viewer. I take this box and have my thing enabled anyway, so let me push it to where I need it, like right there. And at the end of the shot, in the next shot, the box should be right there, just zooming through the viewer there. And it should be on linear. There we go. And on top of that, I sometimes, if it's necessary, just to ease it in a little bit more, make it give it some transparency. So let's just make a couple keyframes here, and make this one a 0, and this one a 0. So it just comes in. Otherwise, it would just come out of nothing. Well, it comes out of nothing, but oops, where are we? It just fades in a little bit, and that's very quick, so you wouldn't really see it anyways. So now we have this cut, and it's just a very smooth thing that you don't even realize it's happening, and especially in fast movements and stuff. And if you have things in front of the camera, for example, in the next wipe that we have here, where is it? Right here, there are things in front of the camera that are about to, where the viewer knows, okay, there's some foreground elements that are gonna, kill my view here. And then again, I use a box here to just wipe and then make a, easy transition into the next shot. So yeah, and all these boxes always have to be underneath the transform group, so that they, travel with the camera and always are attached to it. That is the simple setup for the box wipe. I have to disappoint you guys. Advanced camera techniques doesn't mean it's advanced, setups. It's just very easy. You just have to come up with it. Let's move on to the hidden cut. And here we are in other camera. Boom, boom. We are in another episode. We are in the quantum rays. So, my favorite cut here, this one. So let's, oops. There we go. So this is kind of also a wipe, but it's more a hidden cut, because there are things in front of the camera who are blocking the viewer in a way that you don't need this box anymore. There's no box that wipes in front of you. It's just that you cleverly, put something in front of the camera that you then just kind of cut and place the camera in a totally different area in the shot. And the way this is set up, again, very similar to the box wipe, because it's just an object that is wiping in front of the camera. But in this case, it's this car. Currently, I have this just separate from the camera. So what would happen here, if it wasn't attached, obviously, it just stays in that shot like that. So what we have to do here is first position it properly. Let me actually hide the other one. There we go. Okay, so in here I want to position it first in the second cut. So what I want to do is basically cut from this cut to this cut. It's a 90 degrees cut. It's very hard. So, but I know where the car has to end up in this shot. So I set it up for this one. Let's say, again, this cross helps me. I know where the viewer is going to look at. Maybe there, sort of. Do I have my keyframes here? Oh, there we go. Let's kill these. Kind of like that. It should end up here. And then, since it's, I go to this keyframe with the camera in this spot, and then at this point in time, I then put it underneath the camera group, which is then it sticks to the camera when we are in the previous shot. So now it's here, and then I can just simply put another keyframe on it where it should start. Let's just do that. And this could just be a simple ease out. It starts quickly and eases into the movement.
I wasn't entirely sure. You do have two cars, or is it just one car that just switches position?
It's one car that is...
Oh, it is?
Yeah, so let me go back to this one. Where is it? There it is. Switch to the camera.
Because there was multiple cars, I was a little bit confused.
Yeah.
What's happening?
So we basically let's look at this from above. We want to cut to the camera to this shot, so we obviously have to see this car in the previous shot. There are actually two cars, but then this one that wipes is just one car that is stuck to the camera, and because the camera is going to this one, this guy then gets turned off, and this guy then comes in, even a little bit bigger, as you can see here. And but this is still the same car as this one. It's just that those two.
Oh, okay. So you basically matched the keyframe. That's why when you went first after the cut. So you're replacing the previous ship that you see in the first shot.
Yes.
With a new one.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, that makes sense then.
And it could be, I mean, if the viewer actually stops in this frame, they could be like, what the hell? There are actually two cars in here. But for the sake of the cut, it makes sense. I mean, this is some like Edgar Wright kind of style of cutting, I would say. Some, just having things in front of the camera and, doing wipes and stuff. And for this, it just, it works. And there were a few different things I did in this episode that, if you actually went frame by frame, you would say, what the hell is going on? But it works in that speed.
That's pretty crazy.
So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
All right. So we are at the end of the vision scene in the Neon Jungle. And from this one, the character falls asleep or, gets unconscious and wakes up in a different scene. So we wanted to match cut this one. And the character properly has to match with the previous one. And it could be easy to just not move the camera, just stay with the camera in the spot and then just go from there. And that way you wouldn't have to position the character in a different way anyways. But in this case, the environment was set up in a different way and the camera had to jump to a totally different spot in the scene. So that way I had to then match the character to the previous shot. And the way I do this is I go to the previous one, go to the very last frame, this one, before we cut. I take this guy, just the pose that I have of this character, put it into a different layer here, and just completely take it out of this scene and into the camera. Without moving the timeline here, we have to be on the exact same point in time. And I put it into the camera group. So now, if we just go to the next frame, the camera is at a different spot, but the character, again, is stuck with it. So now we have the character from the previous scene in the pose, in the exact position as the viewer saw it. And then we can just put the character in here and into the new shot and match it to this character. That way you can set up match cuts where you actually have to jump with the camera. Otherwise, if you want to do a match cut, you could also just not move the camera and just kind of switch the set or something. But in this case, the camera has to go to a different place, so the character too. All right, simple setup, and that is it. Do you have specific other questions? I know, Tyler, you were asking yesterday about if you're in here. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
If I could talk about first-person views of a camera sitting in a cockpit, and I guess it's about the nausea-inducing that could happen if you're moving fast and are in first person. Is that correct? Or how to avoid that?
A little bit, yeah. It's kind of just like any experiences you've had with first person views, because VR as a medium, I feel like I love found footage films, and weirdly enough, VR does not mesh well with that kind of style. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, just any experience or anything you have encountered which could even be translated to that could be just cool, because it's a cool topic for me personally.
true first person in Quill experiences is tricky because you couldn't just where am I? This I wanted to show this one. Whoops. You couldn't just place somebody. Well, here we did it, but it's kind of a weird setup. But you couldn't just take a character and put somebody, in the position of their head, and then just have their arms kind of dangling and just doing stuff. Because usually, you kind of want the viewer to move around. Sometimes they are standing up and maybe doing a step here and there, and then they're just stuck inside of a body or something. So if you want to do first person in that way, here we could do it for this episode just because we're telling the viewer first like to sit down and basically not move, and hopefully the viewers aren't just walking around their room while this is going on. And that way it's kind of possible to do this, and we also gave the viewer enough space here to this guy is just bent very far back. It's looking very awkward. But if you want to do a POV shot, you might want to just delete the character at all, like completely, and then you also want to do things like a cockpit view or something, or just if you actually move the camera with the character, you should have like things that are kind of surrounding the character in a way that it's blocking the view, mostly especially on the sides here. Because let me see, if I travel with this camera for a bit, if I move in front, it's kind of the same as kind of sitting on a bus. You look into the front, and if you look in kind of this area, there's not much. It's gone. There's not much moving here, right? There, in the front, there's a little bit of movement coming towards me. A little bit of like this. But if I look to my left, like there's big movement on my side. So right there. So if I look to my left the entire time and just move around like that and rotate, then that's very nausea-inducing, and you might want to avoid that a little bit by just placing things more on the sides here, especially if you want to be in a cockpit, and that way you can. It's kind of like a what's the word? A vignette.
Like reference, yeah.
Yeah, just
right?
That too, and it's kind of like a vignette. Some like Rec Room, I think. If you move very very quickly, you have this quick vignette that with a kind of a fade here around you to just reduce that motion sickness, and you could kind of do stuff like that in Quill. But in general, true POV is tricky just because you don't have full control over where the position of the viewer's head is. But yeah, I mean, if you have very specific like questions in terms of a project, I could help you out maybe after the presentation.
Oh, that's cool. That was good enough, Definitely more than what I started with, so thank you.
So yeah, again, these setups, they are very simple to do, and I also just started out doing these camera tricks without knowing anything, just trying things, and usually the techniques are simple to redo, but you have to come up with those first, and there's a lot of kind of also directing work involved, and it all kind of goes together. But yeah, that's that for now for the camera techniques, and afterwards we can also go more into detail or in the Q&A. But for now, let's go into the fly cam, because that's what you're all here for. And let's set it up. And you might have seen already in the previous Cyro talk, but I'm going to do it once more. It's basically a system that allows you to fly freely in Quill. And as if just with your movements of the controllers, as if you're flying a plane, an airplane. So how is it set up? Well, watch and learn. you make a new group, you make a new spawn area in that group, and you're done. And yeah, you have to have this enabled, the record button and the preview spawn area during playback button. And that way, if I now just, press play, whoops, obviously this spawn area has to be the initial spawn area. If I press play, I now am, stuck to this spawn area. And if I now try to transform this group with the spawn area beneath it, and I'm not careful, weird things are happening. So I'm creating keyframes, and I grab the group as you would usually do with puppeteering, and I just do a small movement, but it's already doing crazy things. And that's what's going to happen to you guys when you first try it. So be careful. But if you, and I kind of did an awkward thing like here, I photographed my hands to show you how I do it. And as you can see, these are the old Rift controllers, because yes, I use the old Rift. But this works the same way for the Quest and Rift S. The controller's setup doesn't change anything. But what I want to show you here is that I use my left hand to kind of put a few fingers on the controller that is used to control, and that way I just have a little bit more, stability in my movement. And that way, if I now go back into this thing, and maybe let's just create an empty layer here with a. First of all, let's make this one smaller, like this, and then let's just create a simple whatever thingy. This is our airplane now. And now, if I'm careful, and again, I do this setup that I showed you. Actually, let me quickly show you what I'm about to do. I'm going to take this controller, use the grip button as you would usually do again when you want to puppeteer transform keys, and if I then take this again, stabilizing with the left hand and moving forward, that is just going to accelerate. Moving forward means acceleration, and then this sort of rotation, is turning left and right. It just makes the car or plane, whatever it is, go this way. And then if you do these movements, that's the same like acceleration forward. It's just going left and right, and you could even go a little bit kind of diagonally. That way you just go diagonally. And if you then additionally do a movement like this, then you're tilting or kind of doing a barrel roll. And to kind of show you how,
and the height, right? You can also do the height.
True. Yeah, you can do this obviously. So this movement, this movement, this movement, and this movement in all axes is just acceleration in these those directions. So, and just to show you, to kind of try to show you how big my movements are for this, if I move forward, it's this, and then turning is this. And then barrel roll, if you can see it, is this. This like super slightly movements. This like would already break everything. Like you have to be very careful, and it's super, you have to do very small movements to do what I'm about to do. All right.
Yeah, I think Peter Marks asked, like, can you show a video, but you will just see a still frame of Dan just not moving. So
yeah,
I think this is a better explanation.
Pretty much. So I'm doing it slowly now, and you can see keyframes are created. I just grab. I have my grab button on my right trigger, on my right control enabled. I now put my left hand on to stabilize, and now I can just fly through these buildings, or let me take these rings. Where are they? There. I'm actually scaled a little bit too big. The scale of your vehicle or the group in general, or actually the scale of the camera here is the speed you can go with. So obviously, if your scale is smaller, you're gonna go a little bit smaller in the scene. So let me, you can do barrel rolls, and again, this is like super slight movements. It's more thinking to where you want to go than actually doing it. And
this is extremely fascinating how you can control it so well. Like, this is mind-boggling to me. I really tried, and it just like it spirals out of control immediately.
And for you and others who might try it for the first time, I also have a different trick or a different setup how you can use this technique. So yes, you can do the free fly thing that I'm doing, but you could also just place this thing, like maybe on the ground here, and then disable rotation here, because the rotation is the bad thing. That's why everything is spinning. But if you have this disabled in the transform tab here, then what happens? Let me maybe, oops, let's get rid of this one. Let's start here. Let's delete all keyframes that we had. Go back to this. And let's center this down here. That it's...
Oh yeah, maybe one important thing to note is before you grab, you have to start the playback, right?
That's true. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, as you would. It's the exact same setup as what you would do puppeteering a character. So if this were a character and I wanted to walk him to let him walk as I did before, I would play. Enable record and have to transform, and I would do this, right? And I use the grip button, and it's the same setup, but in this case, you have a camera in this group, and you are locked to that camera. And then there's nothing else that you do, you just grab that group. And now what you can do with rotation disabled, same thing. And now I'm doing much bigger movements, like way bigger movements, and nothing's really going out of control. And there's a little bit of an ease in here even, So I could now, let me go back to the start. I can grab this and just simply I'm not even stabilizing. I have my hand somewhere else and I can go around here, room, and just whatever, and land. There you go. And now, I can also just play back and follow the camera. What is important for this so that it looks smooth, you always want the keyframes to be on linear. If they were on stepped, it looks, stepped, obviously, it's kind of iffy. So yeah, linear. And now, obviously, what this technique doesn't allow me to do is, rotation. And for that, you can use the kind of stacking transform technique. It's not really a technique, but you can just create a new group underneath this main transformation, and let's just call this rotation. And again, the camera is beneath this, and I guess this also has to be in there. And then we just can go out of this one. Just look at it from above, and let's just create a keyframe here, and we just want to rotate. Let's put the pivot here. So there, and then let's say here we create a new keyframe, and then we are turning a little bit. So let's just turn this guy. Then we go straight, and let's turn him a little bit more. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. So we went around the corner. Let's just do these few. And let's put these to ease in, ease out, just for now. And then you can see he is turning, kind of. You then would have to go in and set these maybe to ease in. Let's see. Here we have maybe a new keyframe. Oops, there. And then he's halfway turned. And then he's at the end of his turn there. So this keyframe then would ease into that turn, and this would ease out, just to make it a little bit better looking. And that way you can see he just turned. And I actually use this technique, for quantum race in some shots, where the cars had to specifically stay on a straight track, but it still wanted a little bit of a turn. So I just stacked that transformation. And let's maybe follow this camera now and see.
But obviously this would only work for a forward motion in general, right? Like if you want to turn, U-turn and stuff like that, that becomes difficult because if you don't have rotation on while recording, you won't see where you're flying backwards.
But maybe this could be a way for you guys to just, try it out first, just practice. But again, there is a simpler way to do this. And you wouldn't even have to use this stuff. You can just take this group. Let's just make a duplicate here. Kill all the keyframes, transform keys. And let's do this one more time. And this time, let's set this to initial. And this time, I'm going to take my pivot. That should be here somewhere. There we go. Put it in front of me. And that way I kind of have a steering wheel, but in a very limited sense. So I can now take this, and while this is running, I could grab this, for example, this green box here, this green rectangle, and then now, because I'm not properly aligned to the grid here, I'm kind of sinking down, but then I'm just moving on this, on the grid here, on this plane. And I could do this, with just upward movement or just forward movement, and then I'm perfectly moving forward. So even for just simple movements, if you are like, I don't want to fly around in the scene, I just want to move my camera like left to right, or just front, left, whatever. You can still use this technique to ease in and properly decide how fast you want the camera to go. You can set your animation speed yourself without having to mess with these curves here. So this is pretty much the easiest way you can use this technique. And with this, you can set up really cool drone shots. Let's hide this guy. Let's say this is a city here. We had exactly this setup used for the Silicon City, the computer-looking thing we had in the quantum race. So I was just flying through and just setting up drone shots like that. Super fun to do, and needs a lot of practice to master, but it's just fun to have an actual game inside of Quill. You can race now in Quill, and how you would actually race, I can show you right now how a race setup would be set up. And for this, you can already see I took Jerry's timer in here, because that's what you need for a race, right? And let us go to the race. So I just set up a very simple 8 here. Obviously this could be much better, but just for the sake of showing it, let me get rid of these guys. All right, so let's grab a couple of racers here and kill all their existing transform keys.
Quick question about the interpolation. You use when you do puppeteering, you obviously use linear in between those, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it would stutter.
Yes. Yeah. This is all enabled. Cool. Let's give them a little bit of space here to get up to speed, and let's just do it with 2 racers for now. And you have this track. You roughly want to stay on this track, which is hard, but let's try to do this. And the way this is set up, again, same thing. You have a group, and you have a camera beneath, which in this case has to be the initial camera, and you have your, race car, whatever it is, below. And then you take this guy. If I now press play, I'm stuck to that guy, and now I press play, grab the thing again, and stabilize, and I'm in free fly now. And now I just race around this track, and maybe do two laps. And it's really, really cool to kind of lean into the curve here. And yeah, okay, there we go.
Can you still hear us, Dan?
Yes, I can.
Okay, because you cut out for a split second, and that happened last time too. And so
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, no worries.
I'm so impressed by how you fly, man. It looks like a game.
Yeah. For me, this I said it last time, and I say it again. This when I found out this technique, this was one of the big eureka moments where this changed how I look at Quill. What if you think about how to to utilize those little happy accidents that happen in Quill in this manner, that you can actually use them for something cool. And I was flying for hours in Quill, just to practice, and it's super fun. And you can properly use this for your films. And what the hell? Oh, we have some keyframes here.
There you see.
That off, yeah. And now what I would actually do to make this an actual kind of sort of time trial setup is I wait for everybody to go through this gate here, through the kind of start line. And in this case, it's this guy. I delete the frames that come before that, and just shift everything to here. Same for the other guy. There he is. Let's take this guy. And there we go.
Just so the start point aligns, right?
Yes. And now I already set up the timer at the exact same time. So now we can see. Wait, where's the other guy? Where? Possibly?
Did you delete him? Or?
Oh wait, I deleted the wrong dude. Wait, what? Oh, okay, he was just starting very late. So, suits again. This. There. And there we go. We now have a race, and both of them start at the exact same time. And let's see how fast they are. Okay.
Wow.
This guy is very, very fast, and he's crossing the line in exactly 8 seconds. Perfect. And the other one is 1 second behind him. There we go. And what we now can do on top of that, to actually, not only have fun in Quill, but also to kind of utilize this as even a painting technique. I'm going to create an empty layer, and I'm just going to once again stuck to this guy for the time. Whoops. Let's go with this guy. I'm on the empty layer that is not inside of those like racing groups, it's just outside. And then I'm just going to take a color here. And as soon as he starts racing, I'm just going to start to draw. So, and I'm going to wiggle a little bit to keep the poly count of the line higher. And I'm going to keep drawing for the second lap here. And there we go. And now I painted a line that would be kind of hard to do, if you wanted to do this just with one line. So now you can even see like where did he fly to, and it was a little bit outside here, and that that's also fun. But you can also even take this technique. Let me create this setup just one more time, real quick. To create shapes that are very hard to draw. So let's create this camera guy here. Let's make him small. Let's make this the initial camera. Same setup as usual. And then I'm going to take him, and then I'm just going to grab him and then kind of move him to a certain spot, just like diagonally, and maybe rotate slightly, and then I'm going to stay there. I'm going to have to hold my hand just very, very still. So I'm going to start this. I'm just going to do this, and I'm flying. I'm flying. I'm still holding, and you didn't see anything yet, but what just happened was, where am I? That this guy just did this. You know, it just was flying off into the distance. But now, what happens if I again make the empty layer? I'm stuck to him, and I start drawing. Oops, now he has to fly. I'm flying, and we stop. Okay, what happened? Well, okay, the path wasn't really great. He was going off very far into the distance, but you can see if you kind of align it properly, if you have a nice flight path. Let's try this one more time. Whoops. Let's maybe do it like that. Oh, that could be interesting. There we go. And let's use the same layer and just paint. And we now have a thing like that, for example. I wouldn't know. I mean, there are ways to set this up with transform groups, and like you would have a transformation like this, and then you would have to rotate like this, and then you could ride the camera and create this spiral in one draw. But you could also just fly for a second and then draw it, you know. And this way you could even, you know, scale in a little bit and create kind of impossible to draw shapes in Quill.
Or you can just lock up Yari in a room and wait for a few seconds.
I want Yari to just master this fly technique and then create weird shit with it. So and yeah, that's what you could do with this. I think I have set it up somewhere here. An empty layer, kind of the same thing that I have with this guy, but on empty frames. So what this allows me to do, and I showed that again last time, just want to quickly go over it one more time. If I'm stuck to that guy, the black dude here, I can now, oops, where is he? Wait, what? Let's go with this guy. I'm with who? Oh wait. Oh, okay. I'm in the wrong racers layer. There we go. Okay. This guy. So now I'm racing with him, and I want to again create an empty layer above that has empty keyframes. And I'm just gonna start drawing here with a duration kind of like that, doesn't matter. And let's just start to draw.
And you're wiggling your hand a little bit.
I'm wiggling a little bit just to you know,
trigger the drawing.
Yeah. When it goes around the curves, it would sometimes do something like that, you know, kind of. But if you wiggle it recognizes, you know, in you know.
It updates.
Yeah. So basically, what we just created is is this thing. So this could even be useful for effects like this, and you know, even smoke effects, for example. If you then go in and grab this stuff, all of this, and then just thicken and thin it, you know, yarify it. You know, you have things like that. I don't know if, you know, that is useful, but yeah, you can really use this technique for very different things, and it's not
So
really.
basically, you would just if you want the trail to be the full track, you would have to anti-keyframe everything first, right? Like
Yes.
the full length, and then you just draw.
Yeah. And also, again, this has to be outside of all the racers, so that it's just, outside of it, and that doesn't follow the transformation of the racers. That's important. But yeah, just something for you guys to think about what you can utilize this technique for. I think there are many different ways. Painting techniques, effects techniques, and also just racing techniques. And I set up a little surprise for you guys to just in the last 5 minutes to show you what I did with it. Let's see where we are here. So the surprise is in this little box right here. So let's see. What do we have here? We have this guy. Okay. So what I want to do with this fly cam is obviously fly, right? And to be able to fly, you need an airplane, I would think. So what I usually do in this case, I take this guy and I just just do that. And yeah, there we go. We have our little airplane. That's just a simple technique for you guys there. And to start the airplane, you then, as you would, just grab the propeller right here and just give it a proper spin. Okay. Doesn't work for the first time as usual. Okay, that's a little bit embarrassing. Let's give it a proper spin. There we go. Okay. And that's how you start an airplane in Quill. And then to get a cool, environment going, you just do another little flick with this one, and there we go. We are back into the quantum race, and in our little Quill environment, painted by Neek. And yeah, I think there's a nice little ramp to go off of. And well, let's start flying.
That's like live performance in Quill, man.
There we go. So let's set it up, and well, let's go. Let's give this a try. Whoop whoop! Little shaky start right there, and whoop. Okay, we're flying. We're flying. Can we fit here? Whoop. Kind of. We want to go through that eye. Oh my God. Okay. Well. Here we are in my little flight simulator. And how I put these guys in here, that might be a topic for another thing, but it's just baking textures of 3D models onto vertex color and then just quickly getting the Grand Canyon in here. I mean, as you do. I was a little bit lazy to do this in Quill. And
so
obviously...
did you Google Earth in Quill?
And there's a little castle in here,
Oh my God, that's
just
so cool.
a little bit, and we're just casually flying through a landscape and doing a little barrel roll. And hey, there's Manhattan.
Oh my God.
Painted by Felix. Thank you for that. Nice environment right there. Let's give it a little bit of a right turn right here. Go down here, and we are back in Soda Island. And there's our little island. Let's fly towards it. Let's give it another little barrel roll. Woo! And let's try to stick the landing here. We're gonna have to. That's gonna be a rough one. Let's give it a turn. Lower, and oh! Okay. Well, we didn't really stick the landing, but at least we're back in front of our multiple bakery, and that's where I want to end this presentation. There we go.
Amazing.
Nice.
I think that's the first clap.
That was incredible.
Amazing.
Oh, man.
Microsoft Flight Simulator, beware.
Yeah, that's my little Shitty little setup, but yeah.
Did you extract this out of Google Earth? Like, I think it's like, is it Mao or something is doing that with
Is
his...
it available?
You can. There are tricks to get any map, any portion of a map out of Google Maps. Actually, yeah. But
Yeah.
this is just out of Sketchfab. Just random models that I found, except for this one that was painted by Felix, which he might upload in a little bit. Who knows? It's a little bit work in progress. But these are just 3D models with textures, and then through Blender, there's a way to just bake the textures on top as vertex color.
colors.
So you get it in here. So yeah.
Yeah, the castle section was amazing when you flew by.
Yeah.
That felt really real, crazy.
And now, I mean, we can just rewatch it, what I just did, and wait for the plane here, and just, there's a little airplane just flying by.
So cool.
So yeah, you can get some really cool shots like that, There we go.
Unbelievable.
That's so cool.
You're taking on this like to a whole new level.
Actually, let's watch it out first person, because why not? Because I have a shitty little cockpit view here, and let's go back. Oh, we're flying in the Grand Canyon.
I love it.
Yeah, this feels cool.
Mind blown.
Nice.
I love this section where you fly by the castle. There's something special about it. It's really cool.
Quill Flight Simulator.
There we go.
That's so fun.
So good, man. So good.
Well, any questions?
How many times did you rehearse for the outro?
I mean, like 3 times. I mean, I had to set it up first, like with the propeller thing, and then just a couple things to go step by step. But I don't know. The flying, actually, the practice. If you practice the flying thing, you can first time it every time. I mean, I just did it while talking, and you can do very smooth flights if you really kind of practice it a little bit. And again, I use the Rift controllers, but this for the Quest and the Rift S works the exact same way. And yeah, there's not much more to than just practice. That's it.
So Doron is asking, are you going to share that file with a timer and the simple track for us to embarrass ourselves trying to beat your 8-second record?
I mean, you mean the 8 curve, I guess.
Yeah, the infinite loop.
That's one thing that we also discussed last time after I showed this. I think there is a cool opportunity here to do a little community race race. So we can, for once, let's go back to this. Just
I think we should do a proper track, right?
Yes. So that should be the first part of the community. So you don't all have to race, if you don't, really practice it, or if it doesn't really, if you are feeling sick while doing it. But we can all build a racetrack together. Let me actually go to the one that I set up for last time. I don't know where that was actually. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We can all set up a racetrack, and maybe everybody who wants to join that. Let's go to the no. Where's the setup? Okay. So let's say here's our track. There it is. So we would have this racetrack, and then everybody who wants to join kind of signs up or whatever, and then we maybe have parts of the track that could be built by different people, and just kind of little connectors that your track has to end here or something, and then we can all just kind of build parts of a track, or maybe if you want to, you can build an entire track by yourself. and then we can just share these Quill files around and just do our own little lab here, or time lab, and we then put all of the race cars together into one, and then we have the same thing as I did here with those two cars racing against each other. So
I think having your own race cars would be nice too.
Yeah. You can paint your own race cars, and I think that would be a really cool community thing to do. I'm thinking about like some sort of a Wipeout style, like maps and stuff. So.
Yeah, I wonder if it would make sense if we make if you share something simple like this first, just to do like a test run, without going straight into details, because I think there's a lot to learn from this, right? Like I think you know the FlyCam inside out now, and so you know what works well and what doesn't work well and stuff like that. So maybe without getting into like a full blown set, maybe it is good to have something to practice on, if you can share maybe 3 tracks that are simple like this that we can practice on. I think that would be like a good appetizer for something bigger. Yeah, you can have one like this that's advanced, right? And one like the 8 curve, and maybe one that's even simpler than the 8.
Yeah, I mean here you could just free fly and just try to do some curves on your own. It doesn't have to be a track itself. This would be, I think, a good just practicing environment just to try to do some things. And I could set up a couple kind of tutorial maps that go more advanced each step, and we can all kind of practice and learn kind of step by step until we go into the full.
I mean, you literally have already the 2 first ones. I think the 8 and this would be plenty to work with, right? Let's see how many people you're gonna make throw up. I might be one of them.
I had a big I was just wondering if you can utilize some of the techniques that you use with the FlyCam for something like a stabilized handheld look to stuff. Is that something you've ever done?
Yep. Let's actually go back to our little flight simulator and let's see what we can do there. So pretty much, it's pretty much like a drone shot then, right?
Right. Yeah, it's just like something that's like a little bit more steady, maybe for a shot that's not moving too much, but you still have that natural kind of sway to it. Because when you kind of do it by hand, a lot of the time you get that shake in your wrist, right?
Yeah. Let's see.
You can actually use the technique, Sage, that Nick was showing. You just half press down, with camera or spawn area. You just half press the grip, and then you get this super smooth cam.
Okay, cool. I forgot that existed.
Yeah, let's see what we can do. Let him fly outside, and let's actually stand on top here on the Grand Canyon and see what we. There we go. There's a little airplane, and. Then I create the exact same setup, 2 clicks and we're ready to go. And let's see, maybe we want to disable rotation here and wait for the airplane to arrive. There we are. And, whoops, no, wrong camera. And let's just kind of follow him a little bit. There you go. And so here the start was a little bit shaky, but you could also just kill a couple of these keyframes and then just ease into that motion if you wanted to, or just make it another keyframe here. And then again, on top of that, you can rotate additionally to that, and then I think you would have a proper kind of it would be more drone and more a what's the camera, the Steadicam look. But if you wanted to actually have handheld, that would be tricky. I mean, you could, if you wanted to stay in one spot, you could do that. and just enable rotation. Let's see what that brings us. For that, you could even do, you could take the pivot here, and if you put the pivot into the center of the camera here, maybe a little bit front, like that, and then start grabbing in front of the camera. So the pivot, oops. So the pivot is, where's our pivot? There we go. The pivot is here, and I start grabbing in front of here. And that way, if I then grab and move here, I think it should turn that way. Let's see. Okay, that didn't work. Well, yeah. I guess.
Yeah, I think for the handheld look, what I usually do is just like really slightly press, then you get this gooey kind of movement, and then you can just move your if you actually use a camera, right, instead of a spawn area. But
yeah, so I don't know, this didn't work.
Because I think if you use a spawn area, then it's like kind of updating your last position constantly. If you use a real camera, then you can do a handheld cam much easier. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you can also just basically do a handheld. Maybe with this enabled, and just do a movement like that.
Yeah.
That's how I also did it before. For movements like this might also be easier to just do 2 keyframes, or just, one looking there, and then maybe again by stacking the transformation, maybe just doing a wiggle transform or something, where you just put on a little bit of a wiggle if you want to, or like a shake. Let's say there's an earthquake and you want to have that handheld like earthquakey feel. You can just put a transformation that's just wiggling up and down on top of that, and then what you get might be a little bit weird, but you get some sort of a handheld feel there. So you could do that. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Also, when you layer in general, like even if you just keyframe animations, and what I usually do a lot is I nest like a bunch of layers and use like a few keyframes, and that way you let them overlap differently, and then you get like those smooth movements like that look very natural, that are really hard to achieve, but you can just do that with like just a few keyframes and let them overlap differently. But if they share the same loop point, you can get like super organic results easily. So you don't have to always puppeteer, because that way with fewer keyframes, sometimes you have more control.
Yeah.
This is so cool, Dan. Can't believe it.
I just want to get a nice shot here.
Dan, I have to go, but that looked incredible. Thank you so much for talking.
Thanks for staying with me. It was fun to do. I mean, obviously, every little excuse I have for flying in Quill, I take it. It's always fun.
Wow.
And I want to see what you guys do with it. I don't want to be the only one who flies in Quill. So let's build a fly army. I don't know. What's the word? Not a navy. What's the
Air Force?
An Air Force, yeah. The Space Force. There's Space Force. There's Air Force. We now have a Quill Force. Yeah. All right. There we go.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Goro, as well.
See ya. Sure. Any other questions for this?
I think that's it.
Oh yes, Darren. I have a small question.
Mm-hmm.
For the first part of the presentation for the camera setup, with the new camera viewfinder system, would you utilize that more instead of like how you did the crosshair and the field of view for your setup?
Something
like,
that I totally I totally.
Will you
forgot.
use that more in the future, or?
Yes, let me actually go back to that setup, because I totally forgot. I also put in a camera in here, which also should be reset, and then put right behind the viewer, sort of. Maybe we can just delete this. So then you always have this camera that's always stuck to this whole setup. So if you want to just render out a version of your film, you always have the exact same thing that the viewer sees. And yes, the viewfinder definitely is a cool way to have your camera view always in here. But I think, there are grids in here, but this is meant for an actual camera. That's kind of what Goro and I were kind of going back and forth in the beginning, that this right here, that's an actual camera that looks through a 2D thing. And this setup is meant to be for actual Quill VR experiences where you...
It's like VR experience versus 2D, right?
Yeah. So you have this setup where you kind of want the viewer mostly to look in front, but obviously there are options for them to look left and right. And this cross gives you the ability to know, okay, where is their base, gaze, if they look in front here, but where's the ground related in relation to them, and where's the horizon. So this is more of a 360 or 180 sort of setup rather than just a 2D view. But I mean, I wonder if you could just place 3 cameras that look around you to have some sort of a 180-degree camera. But this helps definitely, especially when setting up shots and building environments for a certain shot, to not always have to go back and kind of press play to go back into the camera. You can always just see what the camera sees if you are actually in the right camera there. But yeah, I still use this setup for Quill experiences. So
okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Cool.
All right. I guess that's it, guys. That was your first flight lesson, and I hope
flight lesson. I like it. Awesome. Cool, man. Thank you so much for running the class today. This was super.
Thank you, Dan.
All right.
Super fun to watch, and everybody's gonna fly in Quill now.
Yeah. Have fun, guys, and don't puke too much. Okay, it's not. I'm not responsible.
I will keep my trash can next to me.
Good idea.
Ready.
All right. Then see you guys.
See ya.
See you later. Thank you.
Bye.